Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So it's been a while since we did one of these sit down videos. If you're new, hi, I'm Gabby, and if you're not, welcome back. I know. So 10 months ago I said to you, we are looking into our options of buying a house, and I would tell you more when the time was right and we were a little more into the process. Well, I can officially tell you we are further in the process. And as I promised, this is the long-awaited start of the house series. So before we jump on into this, let's get a few things out of the way. First off, if this is not the video for you, that is okay. Just click on off. You don't have to dislike, you don't have to comment anything if you don't want to. I mean, if you want to dislike it, I can't stop you. But I do lots of different other videos, vlogs, autism, sit down videos, those sort of things that will be linked all around, or you can check out my channel and check those out. If this video is for you, then go ahead, grab a drink, stick around. I don't know how long this video is going to be, you never know, but let's just grab our snacks and our drinks and sit down, relax for this process. Next thing, I won't be sharing anything personal in our journey as it comes to it. So anything about location, personal finances, all those things, you just don't need to know. So I'm not going to share any of that. I will probably later down the line, when everything is complete, give you a breakdown idea of sort of what everything cost once we are fully done and complete. I will either do that in a sit down video, in one of my short form videos. I haven't fully got that far, but as of right now, in these videos, there will be absolutely no prices on the screen or told to you until we are completely complete. Probably when the moving vlogs start coming up will be when information like how much each step of the process took, depending on what I'm feeling and if I feel it is appropriate. Which also means I won't be sharing the price of the current house that we are doing this whole process with, just because it's not necessary and it's not needed for me to share this journey. With that all being said, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notified every time that I upload. Also, click that thumbs up for me, guys. Lets me and YouTube know you enjoy seeing my face on all of my content on your computer screen, your TV, your mobile, wherever it is that you watch your YouTube videos. So when we started this process, it was all the way back in November of 2024. Really, we were just getting a vibe for what was available in our area. Now, in this time, house prices has changed. So what has actually fallen into our bracket of what we were looking to pay for a home has changed. But we were just getting an idea of what was on the market, what we liked, what we didn't like. Also, kind of what was going to be our criteria for a home. Now, we did see a handful of properties in this time frame. I'm sure I will, and one in particular we did really love, but we didn't move forward because we didn't have a set budget or criteria at that present moment in time, or nothing set in stone. What we did find from that is actually that a lot of the 2-bedroom houses around here were equivalent prices to 3 beds, and so with weighing up all of our options, we decided that actually a 3-bed in that price range was better for us because it gave us flexibility in the sense of growing as human beings, possibly a family, as I'm of that age of wanting children. And I have stated on my videos that that is something I would love to have if I could one day. Having the 3rd bedroom means that we can have family stay. It means that me and my dad can have a office style spare bedroom space for somewhere I can film these videos, or if, you know, for paperwork and that sort of thing. So a 3rd bedroom comes in handy. We also found that there were a very small amount of 4 bedrooms in that budget. We personally didn't necessarily think a 4-bedroom house would benefit us, but we also weren't against it either. And we're willing to look at those 4-bedroom houses if it hit enough of our criteria and we thought okay, this is kind of sitting right in our budget, it's hitting enough of criteria, it's worth a look. If we'd fallen in love with a 4-bedroom house, we fell in love with a 4-bedroom house. But really, we were looking at a 3-bed home with space to grow, and knowing a 3-bed home really meant that we wouldn't have to move for a very long time, if at all. So moving on to our criteria, obviously the biggest one is that it had to fit in budget. Second is that 2 to 3, but really 3 to 4 bedroom. The next thing was that the kitchen and bathrooms needed a little to no work. It had to have off-street parking. We don't currently have that as an option as of right now, and while our parking is perfectly fine where we are, my dad has found, and as have I, that actually having the option of having off-street parking has just made it slightly easier and taken some of that anxiety off of my dad, which he hadn't realized he'd been having for a while. So having off-street parking was one of those things that my dad said to me, if nothing else, this is a non-negotiable. And then lastly was kitchen appliances. I personally end up being the dishwasher in the family. It's just one of those things, and so I have fallen in love with dishwashers. They have been actually great help. Just one of those things. So while that was not a deal breaker, it was a extra add-on we would have like. Kitchen appliances included was something that we kind of said, if we can get it in that budget, which we could and we can, that was something that we really wanted. But it was also something I had sat there and said, hey, if this has to come off the list so we can get a really good house, so be it. So it was one of those things that it was on the criteria because we felt it was a good thing to have, but at the same time it was something that could easily be taken off. So how we started the process, I basically started online. The minute I was told, hey, we're doing this, I started looking on the usual sites, Zoopla, Rightmove, Purple Bricks. I'm sure there's plenty of others, but they're 3 that I used. I will have them linked down below. But we also, once we became serious, especially after Christmas, so that January month, we started going into our local estate agents, whether they were big estate agents, small estate agents. We were kind of just going in, explaining where our budget was, how we were going to go forward as cash buyers or bank transfer, and what we were looking for. And really, most people were lovely. We've had a few hiccups with estate agents here or there. I think that's kind of the going rate, sadly, at the moment. But in general, it was a really good experience. And we started getting a significant list of sort of 20-ish houses. That did then get cut down to about 10 to 15. Between January and sort of end of April, we just kind of were looking. We were seeing what was in the market, what was happening to the market, what things were going up, what things were coming down. Obviously, stamp duty changed around October. Not that we were too concerned about that anyway, and we were just seeing what was going on. We were keeping our finger on the pulse and just keeping our eyes open and seeing what was happening. And some things were selling really fast, some things weren't. I just wanted to see what was going on. I'm the person who really likes to see what's happening, and then I dive in once I have all the information. So that's what we did. We kept a good eye on things for a few weeks, and we're compiling houses between those websites and our local estate agents, and we just kind of kept our finger on the pulse, looking. And we watched some things go by that, you know, were more expensive than we wanted, some things less. And in the beginning, there was this focus on new builds. We have not gone for a new build. New builds are wonderful, but they are more expensive. So I managed to get it down as much as I could.
Flashback.
I don't know if this is going to be the start of the moving stuff or what. We're still house searching. We found, like, probably the most perfect house we're going to find. Before we even started looking, like, dream house-wise, we took things off the table because this is not possible. When you're only just, like, first time buying a home, you can't expect to find your dream home like that. Your forever home, as much as you like to. That's just down to when I'm into the table, and for very good reason. But having to take the only house that really we both agree on, we both agree we can see ourselves living in, off the table. It's my own fault because I booked the viewing, but I booked it because the other people involved in this house search were new build, newest build possible, and I'm pretty sure I've done a previous clip on this. It's not that much out of our budget, but it is out out of budget. In the house that we found that we both fell in love with flooring, kitchen appliances, built in, etc. Flooring being the biggest thing, honestly, because um flooring costs more than I think people realize. Um, is that was at the lowest at 250, and so it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's a catch-22, and it's horrid. But now I've got to research and relook and rebook places and try and find something similar to what we fell in love with in our price range, so that we're not just settling. Because I think that's the thing is dad feels too much pressure by everybody. He's gonna settle for something and he's not gonna truly be happy with. And that's part of my dad. I don't think a lot of people get is he can be very impulsive, and some of that comes from his brain injury. But in big things like this, it does usually take him a minute. He will look at all the options, weigh up all the pros and cons before he'll even move to the next step. And so I just want to make sure we're both getting all the options and we're finding everything and we're looking at everything and not just rushing to please other people.
End of flashback.
So around March, April time, we realised we had compiled such a long list. I took out all the ones that were sold or were subject to contract and completely removed those from the list. That left us with about 15 to 20 houses. Me and my dad sat down, we looked at all the ones the estate agents had sent us like the papers for, and decided whether we liked the pictures, the sizes of them, those sort of things, and any that we kind of on, don't love it, don't hate it, because at that point, what's the point? There was nothing in those pictures, there was nothing sort of in the advertising that made us go, oh my god, we can see ourselves in that house, like end of next year, or beginning of next year. So we just took those off. So that took us to about 10 to 15 houses, and we were very picky in this process. We were really sort of strict with ourselves on this. We then cut that down to 10, and we sat with those for a week or two, continuously going around to the site, continuously looking at them and going from there. And my dad said, okay, we still really like all 10 of these houses. Let's see how many we can get booking viewings for. I think I got viewings, honestly, they've all sort of melded into one, but I believe I got viewings for all 10 of the houses we were looking at. But honestly, they have all sort of melded into one. Now, during that, obviously, looking at houses, we did lose some houses because they went under offer. They ended up being sold. Wonderful, these things happen. But we also added a few, including our final 3, because our final 3 houses that we were going between were not in our 10 originally. So that happens, things happen. There were a couple we were really considering, but things happen. And as I said, the new 3, our final 3 fell into our lap, in a sense. It kind of fell down to my dad wasn't thrilled about paying such a large amount of money and feeling like the floor space, the floor plan, the floor space wasn't well utilised. And so we kind of just went on just to see if anything had been added. And our final 3 sort of popped up, and we were like, now these final 3 are all 3 stories. So everything we'd been looking at up to this point had been the standard 2-story house. These are not. These were all 3 stories. So that wasn't off-putting for us. They all hit pretty much all the criteria. The only real downside to 2 of these is that they did have smaller kitchens. Now, when we really sat with it, the only real reason to have a decent sized kitchen is if you have a large family and you have family coming over constantly, and we don't. We have my little brother and my mom. So really a large kitchen diner, while it is lovely, is not necessarily essential for us. And so we were willing to compromise. Those kitchens are not tiny, and they certainly have space for me to bake and cook and batch cook and all those things. And actually, the one that we put an offer on has a decent sized space for a decent sized fridge freezer. So it's not like we have compromised completely on a kitchen space, and the living room, diner, those sort of things. So my dad really we both did. We looked at the floor plan, we looked at the sort of what they said was roughly square footage, and with all the pictures we booked viewings. So our 10 during all those viewings cut very quickly down after all those original viewings down to the three houses: Bella, Butchers, Howard. Also, first viewings went from sort of end of April all the way to sort of mid-June. So that was fun. We sat on it after seeing all the houses, and I re-contacted and I booked in for second viewings because they were the ones, me and Dad 100% said, yeah, okay, we want to double check and review these housing. And to be fair, everyone I contacted about seeing those houses again was lovely. Very much like, yes, this is a large amount of money. Of course you should be viewing this again before, you know, just to make sure. So Howard, that one we saw, and while it had the bigger kitchen and was nice, there were kind of 3 major issues with it. The first one being the street it was on. It was not the best street, and the off-street parking could only fit 1 car in, which, while would be fine most of the time, it's still not great. And it was tight getting on and off the drive, and it was just not a situation we wanted to be in. Taking that off the cards, then there was the radiators. The minute I walked in, I knew they were going to need changing. And while that is not necessarily the most expensive thing that he's doing, it's still not cheap. We know we know the house is roughly 15-ish years old, and the radiators hadn't been touched since. So we knew they were going to need changing. The other problem was the carpets. No, I lie. So with the radiators, it was the carpets. They were very worn thin on the stairs, and which, you know, high traffic areas, not a problem. But that meant everything from the living room all the way up the stairs into all the bedrooms meant the carpet needed changing. And that just wasn't necessarily a bonus for us. And then the third problem was they'd have the boiler redone. Again, not a problem, but they put it in the attic top floor, which, again, lovely space. We loved the amount of space there. I mean, I was a little sad that there wasn't an ensuite up there, considering the other 2 houses did, but that's a whole separate thing. It just seemed... And Dad was a little concerned that was going to be a problem in the long run. And so we were kind of sitting on the fence on. We were very much like, it's lower in budget. It's the lower end of our budget. And honestly, like, those things are not deal breakers, but at the same time, they're not necessarily things we want to deal with. So moving on to Butchers. Butchers, again, very nice, was close to my mom's. 3-story. It was on a private street, which meant we were going to have to pay towards that, which would be money, not a ton, but still money that we could spend on something else. And it felt small. Honestly, the second time I went to go view it, it felt smaller, which was a little strange. And the third bedroom was a sort of smaller bedroom, which, considering the other 2 properties all had bedrooms that had 3 equivalent sized bedrooms, it kind of was slightly off-putting. Again, the only real thing that was off-putting in a sense was that maintenance fee for the private road, but was lovely, was very nice to talk to everybody, and was nice to see. And as I said, it just felt a little smaller the second time we went to go see it. Then falling to our last viewing, which was it was halfway through July. So we go in, and actually when we made the second viewing, I wasn't entirely sure if we were going to have to do a third viewing because of our situation. I wasn't entirely sure if other people needed to come view it too. So yeah, our second viewing happens, and we look around. I have a really good nosy at places. I check a couple of things that we kind of went, oh, actually, including sort of, you know, we double checked the age of the house and we're quite surprised, and sort of around windows to make sure there was no damp or anything. And then I checked in all the bathrooms, those sort of things. My grandmother rang during that time. We checked sort of the outside, the decking, the ceilings, and kind of couldn't find anything wrong. And we really like the house. Now this house does have a bathroom on each floor, which was a selling point, and we sell on it. And it's kind of sitting in the middle of our budget. So we sat on it for about 24 hours. Checked a couple of things, our budget, just those sort of things, because that's just who me and my dad are. And on the 16th of July, we put in an offer, which took us into where we are at currently. When we knew we were going to put in an offer, I did a little bit of research. How long does this process take? Cool, it's going to take sort of anywhere between 4 months, 6 months. Could be quicker, could be longer. That's perfectly okay. How long doesn't it take for an offer to be accepted? So you put an offer in, estate agent has 24 hours to give the seller your offer, and I think it's 48 hours for them to accept. So I thought, okay, it's Wednesday. We did do it at like 9 a.m. It's Wednesday. We're not gonna hear today. We're gonna hear earliest Friday. So because I had done the research, I was like, okay, I have to sit with this anxiety for a couple of days. That's fine. That's fine. We can live with this. And so for the rest of that morning, I was anxious, but like okay anxious, because I knew what to expect. I knew this was the beginning of a long process. This would be fine. I checked my emails. I was due a different email altogether. So I checked my emails. And there, from the estate agent, there it is. Offer accepted. 2 hours. Our offer was accepted in 2 hours. So all this anxiety I felt just... I ended up saying to my mom, I gotta go out. I gotta go work. I gotta go do something. And when my mom asked why, I told her and she laughed. I was like, yeah, okay, I get it. I get you. I get your anxiety. I get it. You go. You go do what you gotta do, kid. I ring Dad. I let him know. We email everybody who needs to be emailed. Great. So then is the start of the process. So we were asked for proof of address, proof of ID, and proof of funds. Great, cool. Start that process. Should have also already started the process for the proof of funds, but that's a hindsight situation. Get the IDs and the proof of address sent over. Great, wonderful. Get it arranged so the proof of funds is supposed to get sent. We'll circle around to proof of funds. My dad, I don't know if it was the letting go of the anxiety of house searching, kind of letting himself be excited for the prospect of this house, or what, decides he must find every quote possible for a survey. So we kind of do a little bit of research. We get recommended to do a level 2 survey, which it's kind of just checking visual checks of roofs, damp, those sort of things. We made the decision that a level 3 was not necessary. While the house is older, it's not old enough where we're sitting there going, oh my god, it's probably going to have all this structural issue. It needs to be looked at on a really in-depth. So we decided to go for a level 2, and my dad got a couple of quotes, but we actually went with the one the real estate agent suggested, and we've booked that, and actually that happened today. So this Friday. Date on the screen. Now that's all well and good, but we haven't got the proof of funds sent over. Well, we thought we had. That's a whole separate thing, and we're only just starting the process. And so I said to Dad, look, can we just wait till proof of funds? We don't need to wait. We don't need to wait. I'm not saying we need to wait, but could we do one step at a time? He pays and books for this survey. Now, part of the reason I wanted to wait until the proof of funds is that for at least our agency, they're not going to take it off the market. They're not going to announce it as under offer. They're not taking it off the market until they see proof of funds. So for all we know, tomorrow someone could walk in, put a higher offer in, and have that offer accepted, and all this money that we spent on surveys, etc., gone. There's nothing we can do. So the estate agent hasn't had proof of funds. It was supposed to be sent by the solicitor. The solicitor, for whatever reason, hasn't sent it. They want an amendum of sale, whatever. I don't know. This whole thing is a shit show, quite frankly. And some of that comes into there's a lot of moving parts happening, and everyone trying to be respectful of everybody. I'm not gonna lie, stressing me out. So stressing me out. So yeah, because there hasn't been proof of funds produced yet, house isn't off market. It's still up on market. We could still be, I know the word, I can't think of it, I'll put it on the screen. So I'm kind of stressed, and we both really like this house, and I know none of this has been done on purpose and it's nobody's fault, but it's kind of stressful because we've paid for things that now we can't get money back. So we've partly paid the solicitor, we have paid for this survey to be done, and so it's stressing me out. But yes, anyway, positive note is that all the paperwork so far that needs to be done for the conveyancer, so the lawyer, has been done on our end. So me and my dad have done everything we need to do, which hopefully means that once we figure out this whole proof of funds amendment and this MOS amendment, whatever, all the abbreviations, everything will be on screen, is solved, this next part of the process will be easier because we have done everything we have been asked of. We did speak to the surveyor who kind of walked us through the process of what they're looking at, what each level means, and just because something is in the red doesn't necessarily mean, oh my god, it needs doing ASAP. It doesn't mean there's something wrong. It just means they would advise you get a professional, someone who can look at those things, whether it be the boiler, the roof, whatever, to be looked at. And they even give recommendations of people who can go and look. So that's always good to know. And obviously the seller can also do their own survey if they wanted to, and if they don't, but they want their own professionals to come look at whatever. So let's say they say, oh, your roof's gonna need changing in 2 years, they can have their own person come out and look at it and give their recommendation. So we're gonna see what happens. So hopefully we can get proofs of funds sorted and all that sorted, and we'll be moving on to the searches. But it does seem like everyone is moving in the right direction. Once that thing is figured, the proof stuff is figured, and the memorandum of sale is sorted and sent to the solicitor, that will mean that the house will be taken off the market and it will be officially put as sold subject to contract, which will have us significantly further through the process. But we are not there yet. We are still kind of at the very beginning stage. And that right now is all I have to tell you. In my area, remembering that every area will be slightly different, the housing market has changed, but not significantly. Some things have gone up, some things have come down, but we have got, in my area at least, many houses that are a good size in our criteria, that we're in our price budget, and we're big enough for having a significant future in those homes. While I thought that searching for a house and finding the house that I thought, oh, we could change this, tweak here and there, but like, this is the home that's gonna be our future home, our first home, in the sense of buying. God, I didn't know how stressful this next part would be. And as I said, I think that's because we have so many moving parts, at least on our end. Yeah, I didn't know how stressful that was gonna be. So while I am kind of grateful for the house searching to be over, because they were all melding into one home, I couldn't really tell the difference between them all. I kind of miss it. But hey ho. As I said, level 2 house survey was selected and is being done. If you want to know more about sort of house surveys and how they work, honestly, I'll leave a couple Google links down below. I don't have the brain capacity to really explain it. I also don't really have the understanding of them fully to get it. I just kind of know it's sort of like an MOT, is that you're just making sure the house is sort of what people say it is. And also, I just want to say, I fully appreciate that we are in a very privileged position with everything going on in the world, let alone our country. I appreciate that there are many, many people who can't afford to buy a home. They can't. I appreciate, for my circumstances and everything going on, that I and my dad are very privileged that we will be able to say by the end of this year, beginning of next, that we own a home. That is, I will be honest, that is not something I thought for me was ever going to be an option. And so I am very grateful that I am in that position. And when I explain what's going on with you guys, and I have this sit down video and I'm kind of ranting about the negative sides of all this, I do want you to know that I rant to get it off my chest, more to give you guys an idea of what's happening and how this process is going. And it's not to go, woe is me and it's the end of the world, because I know that's far from the truth, and that there are many people of my age who aren't ever going to be in this position or find it easily to be in this position. I am also fully aware that we are in a very privileged position, that unlike most people buying a home, we are not going to end up with a mortgage. I know this, and so any moaning I do, I want you to take it with a pinch of salt, to know that it's coming from a place of frustration with the system more than anything else, and not a pity me or I'm not seeing things for how they are, because I do. And the problems that I'm experiencing in all this are small problems, they're small complaints, and they're very much sort of, as I said a couple of times in this video now, more to do with having multiple people involved in this system, which is kind of the standard. So I want to say thank you for sticking with me and watching this video all the way to the end. I hope you've managed to get all the way to the end anyway, as I truly don't know how long this video is. But also, if you want to keep up with this house series that I'm doing, or you just want to see more of my content, or maybe you just want to see my face more on a weekly basis, then go ahead and click that subscribe button as well as the notification bell, so you're kept up to date with all of my content moving forward. And I'll see you all on the next one. Bye guys.